There it is. We are live. 1 hour and what would that be? 44 minutes before we're supposed to go live, something like that. We're going live early, guys. So if you are catching us without warning, thank you for hanging here. If you have not caught us and you think in just under 2 hours, you're going to catch us, I do apologize. We've got Megan on vacation. I am starting my Phish week on vacation here. I've got to work today and tomorrow. But we're in the midst of it all right now. We're living life in the middle of summer, trying to keep up with Phish tour. And so we came to you a little bit earlier today. Thank you all for hanging with us here. We are talking Pittsburgh and Austin Phish. Megan, how are you doing here?
I'm doing great. I'm on vacation. I'm at the beach, but nothing will stop me from podcasting with you about Phish. Nothing. Not even being on vacation.
Not even a 4.5 hour goose show?
Not even, although it did prevent me from watching Phish live. But
Me too.
Me too. I caught up, but I'm proud of Goose. That was a great moment for them.
Very proud of our dudes.
Yeah.
We've had a contentious relationship, ups and downs, moments where I'm like, they've got it, moments where I'm like, I don't know, man. I don't know. Is this just Dispatch 2.0? But seeing them come out on stage to the roar of the MSG crowd and fully deliver an incredible show was something else. But we are not here to talk about that. We are not Storm Sound Productions here. This is the Helping Friendly podcast. You are coming here for the most recent run of Phish, which I don't even know if you could technically call a run. We just combined these shows together. Pittsburgh, which happened all the way last Tuesday, June 24th, and the Austin shows. They're much anticipated return to Austin on June 27th and 28th. We're going to get into all of that. We're going to preview Boulder a little bit as well, because this tour is marching along and it's strange routing, strange dates, but it seems to be working. It all seems to be working, which is a great thing. But Meg, we've got some Reprise shows that are coming up. RJ is still out of the country. He is eating strawberries and cream right now as we speak. He is what do they call? He's in the underground, the tube. Is that what they call it over there?
He's in the tube, but he's in the countryside. I don't know if he's in the Cotswolds or somewhere very romantic where there's outdoor pubs and you can ride your bike to the pub, and there's warm beer on tap, and you can sit outside on a picnic table and just look at the farms. And he's in a really beautiful spot. So good for him.
I have only ever laid over in England. It is a place I need to get to at some point in the next decade. I just imagine book culture, soccer culture, and pub culture will agree with me.
Yeah, you will totally like it. It's an incredible place.
I will hopefully be there sometime soon. RJ will be back next week as we recap Boulder and as we recap whatchamacallit. We're gonna our next book, Crossroads by Jonathan Franzen. In the meantime, though, just to give you guys a heads up on what we've got coming up here, there are 3 upcoming Reprise shows here. July 17th in Syracuse, New York, July 30th in Morristown, New Jersey, and July 31st in Asbury Park, New Jersey. All of those tickets can be bought at repriseband.com. The Westcott Theater in Syracuse, the Homestead in Morristown, and the Wonder Bar in Asbury, New Jersey. A really cool bar.
So cool. Yeah. Have you been there?
No, but Eggy just played an excellent show there on, I believe, June 14th. And they played an excellent show there in April of 2023, a great Onitsuka Tiger. So it's a great spot. I've only been to Asbury Park once. And I don't think that there were jam band shows happening. I just toured it and looked around at Bruce Springsteen historical artifacts.
Yeah, it's a really cool bar. It's like right on the boardwalk. It's right on the beach. And it's one of those old relics. It looks like it's from like the 60s or 70s. It's just super archaic looking. It's really awesome. And what a great venue to see Reprise.
It'll be fun. So repriseband.com. There's a bunch of other shows coming up. It's incredible going on this website here and seeing that they've got shows into August and September. RJ, man, band manager, is just killing it. Reprise as a band is killing it. I'm hoping that late 25 or early 26 is when they make their Denver debut, because I will be there. I will be there. But you've seen them. You love them.
Yeah, I've seen them a bunch of times. They're amazing. It's so incredible. Every time I'm at a Reprise show, people come up to me and say, I can't believe how good this is. Honestly, every time, over and over again. And they crushed when they played Brooklyn Bowl last time. It was so exciting. So yeah, they're gonna be out there. And I can't make these shows. I can't make this New Jersey show, unfortunately, but there'll be lots of shows coming up that I'm sure I'll be at. But hopefully they'll get to Denver. I'm sure they will.
They've got to. RJ knows that they have to. It's just a rule at this point in time.
Yeah.
You got to bring music to me. I'm sorry, Meg, we have an HFPod event coming up as well in a couple of
Yeah.
weeks. Do you want to tell our listeners about that and where they can find info about it?
Absolutely. So we are going to be doing a live episode of the pod on July 16th. It's night 2 of the Man. There's going to be a barbecue benefiting the Cancer Center for the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia, and we are going to be part of that benefit. So come and see us and support this incredible cause and also the pod. We'll probably be recapping Man Night 1 there. And my daughter Gemma is going to be there. It's her first Phish show. So you can see her. She'll be there too. Maybe we'll have some HF Pod shirts, but we'll have more information about that as we get closer on our socials. So keep an eye out for that.
I love it. I love it. Phish at the Man is a fun thing. It was 9 years ago yesterday. I played hooky from work to go see Phish at the Man. And all I got was a Dear Prudence, and a great Harry Hood. It was one of those shows. They started great. I loved the first set. I loved the third quarter. And then they played like Tide Turns. I gotta look this up now because it's truly a historically bad show. No, it's not
going to happen this year because 2025 Phish is no joke. And the last time I saw them at the Man was amazing too. That incredible Mike song, really great stuff.
Listen to this second set. I just found
Okay.
it. So we start with Cross-Eyed and Painless, which is a solid jam, into the debut of Friends, which I kind of would like for that song to return. I like that chorus.
I forgot about that song.
The Fishman song opened up Big Boat. Pretty much everyone forgot about it. Then we go to Down with Disease, unique mid-second set slot for Down with Disease. Decent 12, 13-minute jam into What's the Use. Okay, fine. We're in a good spot here. I can groove with this. But then listen to the way this set ends. Meat Stick into The Line, Tide Turns, Backwards on the Number Line, and Dem Bones. That is like a 5-song run of just like brutal summer 2016 Phish. I don't wish that on my worst enemy. But then they come up with the encore and we get the second Dear Prudence of the tour, only the third time ever played, into, if you have not listened to the 6/29/16 Harry Hood in some time, I definitely recommend it. It is one of the best Harry Hoods of 3.0, one of the best Harry Hoods of that summer. Maybe rivals the Hood from later in the year where we got the Hood guy from. So quick diversion into Man history. Definitely recommend it.
All right, well, I'll listen to that Hood. I'm not going to listen to anything else from that show, but I Ev Dude still has PTSD from that. That's hilarious. Well, the last time I was at the Man was 7/26/23, and that was amazing. That was when they opened with that Mike's into Boogie On, back into Mike's incredible jam, and then set 2 we had that Carini. Yeah, good stuff. Really good stuff.
And then set 2 kind of fell off, I seem to recall, but really good Carini. Yeah, one of my favorite jams of 2023. Yeah. All right. So we got Reprise, we got a Man show. We've got some questions coming in here. Brian, will you be hitting Taper's Choice on Wednesday?
Ooh.
I hate to break it to you. I will not. I'm taking full advantage of this being a 3-night Phish run this year rather than a 4-night Phish run, and I will be probably watching baseball and movies on Wednesday night, getting myself all ready. We're bringing my son to his second Phish show on the 4th, which should be a ton of fun. So we're trying to figure out the logistics of this. Parking is an issue this year compared to Dick's is just like easy.
Oh, yeah.
We also got GA. There's just so much always to go into this. I need to get to my seat and hear the band start. That's all I'm just trying to get to that headspace right now, guys. Okay.
It's a whole new thing. It's a whole new thing. So you've got to just get reorient your whole thing. You're in Boulder now. You're not going to be at Dick's. I know. I feel for you. It's a lot of pre-show anxiety. Redoing the
Aesthetically,
whole
it should be really nice.
It's gonna be beautiful,
Boulder's
right?
great. The drive
Yeah.
out from Boulder back to Arvada is a little bit more chill than the one from Commerce City. It should be a ton of fun. Shermith here says excited to see Phish with a view of the Flatirons. That is one of the
Sick.
great perks. Those Flatirons are absolutely gorgeous. Downtown Boulder is a ton of fun if you're going to be there. I can't wait. Hopefully I'll see some people. But we're not here to talk about Boulder yet because it has not happened. We don't know what's going to happen. We've got multiple days of anticipation building up to it. It's like they're throwing their own little mini festival. And hopefully Saturday is a little bit better than Sunday at Mondegreen, but that's for another day. We are here to discuss 3 Phish shows from this past week, Tuesday, June 24th, 2025. Friday, June 27th, 2025, and Saturday, June 28th, 2025. The latter two from Austin, Texas. The first one here from Pittsburgh. Meg, let's just take a quick step back. We had 3 shows in Manchester last weekend, then these 3 shows. What were your thoughts going into this run? What do you think is kind of the big takeaway from these second installment of 3 shows on the tour?
Well, I was really excited going into this run. I mean, coming off the New Hampshire shows, they were just incredible. I thought, especially that Tweezer Fest, and we had this huge stuff coming in. I thought we had some really great jams. So I was excited, and I'm really happy to report that the big takeaway is that big jams continue to dominate. I was looking at some stats, Brian. Do you want to hear them?
I would love to hear them.
Okay. So I was looking at some stats about Summer Tour, and in these first 6 shows, we've had 6 jams over 20 minutes. So we've had the Carini from New Hampshire, the Tweezer from New Hampshire, and then we had the What's Going Through Your Mind from Pittsburgh, and then the Fuego and the Golden Age and the Ruby Waves. So we've had a lot of really big jams over 20 minutes. We've also had there's 5 if you count the Yem. I also didn't count the Yem just because, or I'm sorry, 7 total if you count the Yem. I didn't count that.
Yem is always an asterisk in this.
Yeah, so I didn't count that. 6 jams over 20 minutes, not counting the Yem. But there is a lot of jams too that hit very close to 20. So I didn't count those either. This is just over that 20-minute mark. So in 2024, in the first 6 shows, we had 1 jam over 20 minutes. The Tweezer from Great Woods. Wow. In the first 6 shows of 2023, we had 2 jams over 20 minutes. We had the Ruby Waves from Alpharetta and the 29-minute Tweezer from Alpharetta. So we are in, I don't know if we've ever been in this type of territory. I didn't have time to go back and look through all of the summer tours, but in the last few years, and I think we all agree that last summer tour was amazing. We are now looking at, we're just really unprecedented amount of huge mega jams in the beginning of the tour. It's so exciting. And what's really cool about these jams is they're not just like long jams to be long jams. They're interesting. They're so interesting. They're spending more time in really exploratory space than in Spring Tour. Spring Tour, a lot of the jams were like beautiful, but leading straight to big peaks. These are much more exploratory. They're using rhythm really well to ground all the textures and layers of these space effects. Mike and Fishman in particular sound so powerful. And Trey sounds incredible on his new guitar. And he's still loving this big sustain that he was doing a lot in the spring, but it sounds great on this new Koa. And so I think it's just a really, really exciting time to be a fan. And I'm actually pretty blown away by this tour so far. That's my big takeaway.
It's an incredible takeaway and really puts things into context. Thank you for doing all the data work. We really appreciate it here at the podcast headquarters. I'm just going through my head right now because of like kind of tours that would make sense comparably to this. And summer 2003, first 6 shows. This is off the top of my head, so I could have this wrong. come at me with bated breath if I get this wrong though. Two jams over 20 minutes, the Gin from Shoreline and the Seven Below from the Gorge. Summer 2004, the June run. I guess I combine them both in my head. Off the top of my head, there are one I think that there are four jams over 20 minutes in the first six shows, so less than this. Summer 2021, you've got, I think, three jams over 20 minutes in the first six shows. So, and summer 2017 would be the closest, where you get the Simple, the Carini, the Disease, the Mr. Completely. So I think it's four in the first six shows as well. So, like, to your point, again, I could have one of those off, but I don't think there's any other tours between 2003 and today that would qualify. We're in pretty rarefied air for Phish. They seem to be in this place. This is kind of this is a great segue into my kind of big takeaway. They seem to be in this place where there is zero stress, an
Mhm.
abundance of comfort, a still desire and willingness to see what is new and what is possible, but no stress on getting there. And I
Yeah.
bring this up because I don't want to jump too far ahead, but like Saturday Night Show is not going to be my favorite show of the year. I think that set list wise, it's not exactly my ideal terrain for set listing. Some of the flow is really lacking throughout. But you get a 30-minute jam that's an excellent jam right in the middle of the second set. Like that 10, 15 years ago within this community would have warranted like the entire internet crumbling, because
Yeah.
people would have like lost their minds that like in a ho-hum show there's a 30-minute jam that is like worthy of years and years of re-listening to understand what's going on in there. Like they are playing at a in a place right now where they don't have to throw everything that they have into a 30-minute jam, into extended, even a 20-minute jam. Like there were periods in this band's history in the not so distant past where
Mhm.
to get them to a 20-minute jam was this leap of faith and this like focus that they had to kind of undergo that would really affect shows around a show with a big jam. And now it's
Yeah.
just kind of like an everyday thing. Now, is this going to be a trend that goes forward and continues? Who knows? Like, I don't know what they're going to feel, but there is a sense of me that what strikes me about this tour in particular, and about just where Phish is at right now, is that they really have the year-long schedule down, where you get
Yeah.
a couple shows in Mexico, nice little run in the spring, summer that doesn't really pack things in and stress them out, nice little run in the fall, and MSG. And like that structure, which in the early 3.0 we did not have, the band would just go
Mhm.
radio silent for like 6 months and then work things back across a pretty intense summer tour, and then play Dicks, and then either play a 2 week long fall tour or go completely radio silent again until MSG. You
Yeah.
now get like these little drop ins with Phish throughout the year where they play enough, they're practicing enough, but they're never playing so much that they're getting tired. And so even Saturday night in Austin, is this going to be, like, how are we going to remember this show? I don't know, 5-10 years from now, but it's like a show before a break, before a pretty anticipated show, run of shows in Boulder. It's the kind of show that in years past they would have just like played it, not a ton of effort, not a ton of memorability. Like I think of like Oklahoma City 2012, that's not a really memorable show, and it kind of felt like they had had a great night in St. Louis. They played a show in Oklahoma City, but the real focus was getting to Dick's.
Mhm.
This now feels like, even when they're, I don't want to say mailing it in, but like even when they're not playing the most aggressively high end show that they can string together from a set list flow jamming
Mhm.
standpoint, they're still giving you incredible jams.
Exactly. And I think it is a combination of like what you're saying about really getting the structure down, and also I think they've just been playing more than they ever have before. I was looking at last summer and I was thinking about how Trey was on that. He toured with Classic Tab a bunch in the spring, and I just think they're all playing a lot, and it shows. And I think having this spring tour huge impact on summer tour. Just absolutely huge.
Massive.
Yeah.
Because it's just not that long ago that they played a concert, so they don't have to
Yeah.
rework everything and make sure that they can hear each other. And yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I'm also think that there's a renewed energy within the band, not renewed, but a constant energy. I think Mike has been really active on socials. He's been posting videos talking about how much he's enjoying himself and how he's loving his new positioning, and, really just seems to be happy and really like engaged with the community and wanting to share that. And I think there's just a lot of like good energy. Trey's making speeches about, where he was born. And, I just think they're feeling good. They're feeling really good. And it's exciting. It's an exciting time. I mean, it was a hard choice about Saturday night, what I was going to watch. It was really hard because Phish is just lit up right now. It's thrilling.
They are, and I mean, had that been any other Goose show, I would have been watching Phish. We
Of
both
course.
have emotional affinity to that band for a lot of reasons, and any band that I listen to as much as these two that has a moment like playing MSG for the first
Yeah.
time, I'm gonna put my heart there. I do want to, before we get into the show by shows here, I do want to present a little bit of a hot take. A
Oh, okay.
little aggro take here, just to kind of spin things up in the chat. I was thinking about this after Friday night show in Austin,
Hmm.
which was an awesome show. I thought the first set
Yeah.
had great set listing, and then in the second set we get this pretty solid opening 13-minute No Man in No Man's Land, and then this pretty monster candy coated groove in Fuego, and then a outstanding
Oh,
mind altering golden age
love that jam.
24-minute jam followed by a 27-minute jam. I guess 26 because part of it is Trey's speech at the end. But we've talked about this in the past. I think it was the second no, it was the Syracuse show from 2023 that had a Tweezer and Oblivion both went 20 minutes, and it led to the data analysis that Phish did not regularly play back-to-back 20-minute jams, and we were really
Yeah.
shocked to see that. What I'm trying to get at here is that has become like something of like a commonplace for Phish, this like back-to-back 20-minute jam thing. And what we were just hinting at, that like there's just so much consistency, and that 30-minute Ruby Waves in the middle of a kind of average show, these have now become like, this is the expected state of Phish.
Yeah.
This is the standard state of Phish. And I think we as a community have to kind of reset the way we're talking about this band, because there was a lot of gaslighting throughout 3.0 that like, hey man, why are you being critical of this band? Hey man, maybe they're just not for you anymore because you're expecting too much. Like this right now, for the last definitely 3 years, like going back to the start of
Yeah.
2023. But even like if you extend some gratitude to 2022, which I am learning how to do, the entire 4.0 era is now like the standard bearer for like what we should anticipate like aging Phish to be like.
Yes.
And I'm
It's
very
hard.
thankful. I'm very thankful in a lot of reasons for the 3.0 era. I think that seeing a band uh lose so much as they did in 2.0 and then rebuild it in front
Yeah.
of our very eyes was a really emotional experience, and a really just like profound experience as like loving a band and loving a community at large. But I think we need to like come to terms with the fact that like calling people out for being critical of 2011 and 2016 and parts of 2018 and definitely parts of 2019 Phish was totally unwarranted. Like that was like MAGA level propagation or propaganda, that like those were like great years that you had to appreciate, otherwise you weren't a Phish fan. Like, the criticism of this band during the 3.0 era was completely out of love by the people who were doing it, and the reason for it is because of what we're hearing right now. Like, this is an older version of that band that is playing worlds beyond what we were hearing for
Absolutely.
much of the 3.0 era, even the best periods. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I would say, and maybe this is sacrilegious to say too, but I don't think the band would be here if the audience wasn't as critical and didn't have as high of expectations.
I appreciate that take. You know, I appreciate that take.
It is true though, and this is something side note that I worry about Goose because I don't see that fan base being hypercritical, which I think can be, it can be too much sometimes, but I do think that this band has exceeded expectations on so many levels in so many years that we expect the best from them. And for many years they couldn't do that because they had to build it back up. And I rejoined this community in 3.0. So I also have a love for 3.0. But I definitely feel like I agree with you. If we are going to listen to this band as much as we do and talk about this band as much as we do, we have to be critical and we have to be honest. And I really don't think they would be here if they didn't have fans that expected them to work hard and get better.
Ev Dude says, "Don't worry, I'm talking to Shapiro about Whip It and Susie Q in last night's set too." Hey man, like
Exactly.
Goose played an amazing set one. I was like, wow, like they went from the biggest show of their career to like a total vibes night of like, hey, we're just gonna like throw down some jams and everything's gonna flow really nicely because we don't have any expectations. And then the second set like tanked all that. Um,
I mean, the same
yeah,
thing happened in Fort Collins after their Red Rock show, just saying, in
this is true.
2023.
This is true.
Night 2 was amazing.
Back to Phish. Forbin777 is telling us to stop because we're
Fair.
we're converging podcasts right now. I guess like look, this kind of gets back to a conversation we had a couple of months ago. The like, do you have to be there? Like, I think
Yeah.
that this is the eternal debate within the scene of, if you're there, you get something that if you're at home, you can't get. And I have always, I mean, we have a full episode about how I resent this line of thinking. And I think part of it is the sense that, yeah, when you're there, it's like more of a party. And so like you want that party to feel really good. And there were definitely shows in the 3.0 era that were like, it was Phish on stage, but it wasn't like the
Mm,
put this fish in my veins type of moment. Like this, it wasn't like I would continue consuming this level of Phish as though it like is, my lifeblood now. Like this Phish that we're hearing now is a Phish that is clearly uh more inclined to take risks, more comfortable on
mhm.
stage. Uh They're less worried about, like, the process. Like, it seemed like for so much of 3.0, there was this, like, process to get back to where they are right now, and now it's just like, it doesn't matter what they play each night because any jam could come out of pretty much any song, and the set list, like, there's not as much dependent on the set list anymore, it
Yeah.
feels like, because you kinda just know at some point they're gonna turn on. It's almost, it's like watching, like, LeBron and KD play basketball at this age. Like, they're not as fast as they used to be. Um, they, they may need a little bit more time on the bench here and there and not put as many minutes in, but like you just know they're going to deliver the goods because they just know how to do this more than they did 10, 15 years ago. So that's my hot take. I think that we need to just rationalize the way we spoke about this band in 3.0 versus how they're playing now, because I think a lot of people got really uptight about criticism and praise for guys that we are like literally paying to entertain us. And it's just very clear to me that what we were getting worked up about in like 2014 and appreciating this band, this band still had more to do and more to say, and they clearly worked back to get there. So like, let's put it into proper context that like this is the best level of Phish that we can eh, conceive. I can't imagine it getting better. Honestly, I don't
No.
know what that would
How
be.
could it? How
I
could
don't
it?
know what that like. Are
I'm
we just
sorry,
gonna
but
get
like
like
that Tweezer
two songs
Fest,
back?
like from New Hampshire? No, like what's gonna happen? A 42-minute what's going through your mind with a new song? No. It's not gonna get better than this. And I mean, I don't think it could.
I don't know if it
I
can.
mean I
It's
mean,
amazing
they could
stuff.
stop playing My Soul maybe. I don't know. They could, I don't know, finish their festivals in a more empowering way. I don't know. I have a couple ideas, but not
There are a
many.
couple
I think
things
a couple things. Although I
which
will
will
say, how funny is it, Brian, that they completely trolled us about talking about how they're not really playing bust outs anymore, and then they literally came back and played like a million bust outs these last 3 shows.
All right, so let's get into this because that's a great segue. Night one in Pittsburgh, yes, became ultimately a bit of an inside joke troll fest on us, while also giving us an absolutely generational Phish jam. Why don't you give us the set list here for set one, two, and the encore, and we can chat about the show.
Set 1 is AC/DC Bag into Dogs Stole Things. Paul and Silas, I Always Wanted It This Way. Water in the Sky. Stealing Time from the Faulty Plan. Yamar. Gumbo. Walls of the Cave. Set 2 is You Enjoy Myself into What's Going Through Your Mind. Prince Caspian into Julius into Blaze On. And the encore is Brian's favorite, The Howling into Ghost.
So if you look at the gap chart, the show before 622 had a 15.41 gap, which included two songs over 50 shows. The second night in Manchester had a 12.33 gap, and the first night of the tour had a 6.47 gap. Then we go to Pittsburgh, where we get a 46.75 show gap.
Yeah.
This show has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 songs over a 25 show gap, 3 songs over a 100 show gap, and 1 song over a 300 show gap. Dog Stole Things was first since 7/31/22 at Meriwether Post. That was 23 show gap. Paul and Silas first since Forum 2016. That's a 323 show gap. That is not to backtrack, but if you want like an argument in favor of why we should not just be blindly praising this band, go and look at the set list for 7/22/16. And and then Water in the Sky, 134 show gap, first since 7/15/22 in Great Woods. What is your kind of big highlight and overall takeaway here from the lone show in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania?
What a banger in Pittsburgh. Like, how awesome to just drop in and crush a show like this. This is so exciting. I'm so happy for all the people that were there. I think the first set works really well. I wanted it this I always wanted it this way, just really propulsive Fishman in that. And the gumbo just sounding great in the first set too. Like this resurfaced as a jam vehicle in Bethel Woods in the summer of 22. And the last time played was the longest version in 20 years. And it was this huge jam in one of the shows that Bill Graham in San Francisco this spring, excuse me. And this one wasn't as long as, but it is over 13 minutes and it's really, really awesome jam, really optimistic and connected. But, you know, the big takeaway from this show is the 6th longest Phish jam of all time.
My God.
That's crazy. This is the longest jam they've played. The last time they played a jam this long was the Greek Tweezer. So April 2023. So a little bit over 2 years, but like the 6th longest jam of all time happening in their 42nd year on like a Wednesday in Pittsburgh. You gotta love to see it.
And in a song that is not even 12 months old.
This song, right? Like think about the path this song has taken. When it like debuts, every time it's played, it's had like a monster version. I think almost every one but one version is on the jam chart. It's bananas.
I think you're right about that. Yeah, it literally 9 times on the jam charts. We've got a solid version of the debut with Billy Strings on August 7th. The version from Mondegreen was huge, open set
Amazing.
2. I saw a great one at Dick's. MSG had the EDM version, outstanding version to open up the final night of Mexico this year. Very good version coming out of the Golden Age on 418. Then it opened the second set on night one of the Hollywood Bowl. Was not the biggest jam of that show. That would be the Light, but it was a solid one. And now this that went 43 minutes and really kind of, we got a great text from RJB, who has been a big proponent of the theory that Phish sonically has not changed that much over the
Mm.
4.0 era. And his text about this was, wow, new sounds everywhere, complete new inspiration, so stoked. Which anytime you get that level of excitement from RJ is just a plus for the world at large. So like it did feel to me like this jam structurally was in line with these big blowout 35 plus minute long jams that we are, I can't believe I'm about to say this, but like getting used to in this period in time,
Yeah.
where segments are really stretched out for a long period in time. They let kind of spacious segments build and ebb and flow, and then they come back into something else. And so it really just feels like a complete piece when you're done with it. But I found John Fishman to be just on another
Yeah.
level here in this. I found the combination of kind of peaking melody in the first half of the jam meeting with spacious noise. It kind of reminded me of the Ruby Waves from MSG last year, where you just like
Mm.
get big chunks of ideas. But what was kind of your big thought about this jam, and what does it say to you about where the band is evolving right now?
Yeah, I think that to me, what is really exciting about this jam is just the textures in it. If you listen to this jam on headphones, it's wild. There's so much going on in each section. I think what's cool, the one part that there's a bunch of parts that I loved, but the one part that really blew me away was kind of halfway through, they find this familiar trajectory. They start building towards a really sunny peak, and Trey has that crystal clear soloing. But then inside the peak, when they get to the top of it, they start to kind of shred at it, and they find this like discordant and shredding sounds, and it adds the depth to this climax, and it kind of spins the jam in this darker direction, and it just sends them off. It's almost as if they're kind of catapulted through space in this like dystopian noise jam. And I totally agree, Fishman is playing these really deep, like primal beat throughout this whole space section that just keeps it so grounded, and the others can just kind of go off on top of it. And to me, it's just incredible. It's so, their spaciness, I talked about this at the beginning, but it's really rhythmic. So the space, that ambience that they're floating in doesn't ever feel disconnected or loose. It's really grounded because there's such a strong rhythm holding it down. And the way they kind of wind it down, it sounds like a machine. It's really, really cool. And I mean, I think it's just an absolutely epic jam. I've listened to it, I think, 3 times, and it's completely captivating the whole time.
Yeah, like they played 2 40-minute jams last summer, the Simple from Alpine Valley and the Tweezer. And I think that we all kind of came to the consensus that the Simple felt like a lot of like stretching for 40 minutes. It didn't
Yeah.
necessarily like naturally come together. The Tweezer, I loved that in the moment, and I loved it on re-listen. This But even that one feels like 8 sections kinda compacted together, like
Yeah.
they were chasing 40 minutes almost, which, hey, I'm not complaining. Give me a chase after 40-minute jam in any show at Boulder, and I
Hell
will
yeah.
be a happy dude. It's like that and Albuquerque are the last 2 things I'm chasing. 40 minutes, Albuquerque.
Yeah,
Oh, and a
same.
4-song second set. I've never seen a 4-song second set, so Patrick Jordan, if you are listening and you want to just like give a message, one night should be a 4-song second set. I would be very happy for that. But this reminded me of the Ruby Waves from MSG last year. It reminded me of the Wave of Hope and Choctaws Torture from Mexico, in that it is a massive, like full on 40-minute long jam, but it never felt to me like they were chasing it.
No.
There was a moment like 22 minutes into the jam where I was texting with some buddies while listening, and I was just like, all I said was, this just sounds like the kind of jam that has no end. The
Yeah.
way that they're playing, they sound too locked into the groove that like these are the moments where if it's going to go 30 plus minutes, they're they're in that space right now. They're not out of ideas. They could keep this thing going. It was kind of this like web of like a really hypnotic groove. And then check my watch, 28 minutes, and I start texting a bunch of buddies like, "Hey, just heads up, like we're nearing the 30-minute mark." And then it just kept going because they just had more to say. You
Yeah.
got that in those Mexico jams from 24. You got that in the Ruby Waves, that it wasn't so much that the band felt like they were chasing big times, which I don't think they necessarily ever like. I don't think they're ever like on stage like, "Oh, one more minute and we get to 40." But like they definitely sometimes feel like they are adding another segment on just to see what else they can do. This felt like the music was playing them in a really cool way.
Yeah, so patient, so exploratory. I totally agree with that.
Shermith here says, I'm kind of blown away at how they returned to the song at the end. It really made
Yeah.
it feel like a mind boggling journey. Foreman77 says they stuck the landing for sure. I agree with that. Sometimes they
Yeah.
don't in these. They just like out of nowhere, it's like, "Bo, bada, 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 bada," and like, whoa, like you just pulled me out of like a giant jam. This felt like, and I think that what's going through your mind has a way that they can do this in a way that like everything's right, for example, does not, where they can just be playing a
Yeah.
groove and subtly the boom, 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 like it just
Yeah.
comes back in very naturally. Um, Fascinated by this song. Really hope that we get one at Boulder that in any way competes with this. Um, what else do you anything else you want to say about this show? I personally liked this encore. I think that this is the spot for the Howling. If we're going to do it, it is a just throw it in the encore. Do not take up my fourth quarter with this. I would
Yeah.
even be fine with them opening a show with the Howling.
That'd be fun.
Just
I'd be down
keep it
with
out of
that.
like the last 20 minutes of the set because it has the same effect that Meat Stick does. I thought it was here plus Ghost was just a really cool, unique combination to close things out.
Yeah, the ghost has a wild peak too. Like Trey is peaking like so incredibly. It's so he sounds amazing. Yeah, I even like the fourth quarter of the show. I thought the show was just awesome.
I did too. This made my
Yeah.
larger list.
What
From a
tier?
show standpoint, this is tier two, which we've
Okay.
labeled scoreboard, which is
Okay.
basically, hey, check the scoreboard, band. Like this is a band playing a 43-minute long jam in a solid show. My second tier, not to give things away too much, but it's got 423 San Francisco, night two of San Francisco, Pittsburgh, and Austin. My tier one, which I have named planetary alignment. This is that very special moment where everything comes together in the solar system. That is 418 Seattle, 422 San Francisco, and
Yeah.
622 Manchester. Um,
Oof.
I will the what's going through your mind inspired me to create a new tier of jams. So do you want to hear my top jams
Yeah.
right now? All right.
Yeah.
This is going to give something away for where we're going with this, but we're going to take a break here in a second anyway, and we'll come back to talk about Austin. But just I'll leave you all on this. So tier one is Rough and Rowdy, which is a nod at Bob Dylan's most recent studio album. And it is a holy shit, I can't believe that this band is playing this well at this age of their career. And that is the Tweezer Fest from 622, the What's Going Through Your Mind from 624, and the Golden Age from 627. And then tier 1A, second year in a row, we have a tier 1A
No,
because Phish is just
1A.
so good that you cannot drop this down to tier two. This is labeled Flower Moon, which is another hat tip
Mm.
to an aging auteur. This is a hat tip to Killers of the Flower Moon, Martin Scorsese's 2023 film, which like how is he still making movies that great at this point in his career? I don't know. But that is the 131 Fuego, the 2-1 What's Going Through Your Mind, 422 Ruby Waves, the 425 Light, and the 628 Ruby Waves. So that's kind of where my
Mm.
headspace is at right now in terms of the best jams of this period in time. Is there anything that's missing from there? Do you have any qualms, any bones to pick with my listing?
No, I was trying to go back and forth between the Golden Age and the Ruby Waves today a little bit to think about which one I liked more. I ultimately settled on Golden Age, but I do think that Ruby Waves is interesting.
The last like 10 minutes of that Ruby Waves are wild.
I
Which
like the
we're going to talk
beginning of it too, but we'll talk about it.
we're going to talk about all this. We're going to get to Austin here in 1 second. We're going to take a break for everyone listening to the podcast. Listen to some ads, get yourself a glass of water, get yourself all ready for part 2 of the podcast. Okay, we're back. I love how everyone live just gets to watch us hang out in silence while we wait it out for enough space so that we can just drop the ads in. All right, so we had this was again the strange routing of the 2025 summer tour. We had 3 shows to kick off the tour, 1 show in Pittsburgh. Hey, we're on the right track here on Tuesday. Nothing on Wednesday, nothing until the band stepped on stage on Friday evening at the Moody Center in Austin, Texas. They came out, set 1, Crowd Control, Mike's Song, Into Cities, Divided Sky, The Well, Daniel Saw the Stone, Taste, Dirt, and Weekapog Groove. Set 2, No Man in No Man's Land, Fuego, and Golden Age, The Squirming Coil, Sand, and Character Zero. And the encore was A Life Beyond the Dream and First Tube. And just for a note from the Gap charts here, we are at a 31.65 average song gap. We had 2 big bust outs. Crowd Control played for the first time since August 2nd, 2022, which I believe was Detroit. Or maybe it was Blossom. I forget the way that tour routed. We have those 2 minutes.
Blossom.
Blossom. Sure. Okay. So that was 123 show gap since then. That show had a 25-minute free. And then the Daniel Saw the Stone for the first time since August 1st, 2017. Maple Night, that's a 284 show gap if you want to feel old for how long ago the Baker's Dozen was.
Is exactly what happened because I was streaming the show and I looked it up and I was like, wow, I saw the last Daniel Saw the Stone. And I was like, but that couldn't possibly have been that long ago. But it was.
Long time.
That long ago.
Long time.
Yeah. Wow.
So what are your thoughts on this show? This is night 1 in Austin. This is the first time the band has been back to Austin since, I believe, 7/31/18. Could that be correct? Yeah, 7/31.
So, yeah.
18. Right. I think so. That seems accurate. It's not showing up here correctly on the Phish.net stat.
Well, it wasn't because I thought it had been 10 years since Phish played Texas, but it hadn't been 7. So
it was 7/31/18. That was it. Okay.
I think the .net stats were weird for some reason.
Which I was at that show. That was that show had a great Everything's Right. What are your thoughts on this show overall? What were kind of your big takeaways?
Yeah, I mean, more bust outs, which was cool. I also thought this second set's really great, especially the third quarter, super strong. And I also thought one thing that stood out about this show is just more effects. Trey was playing with a lot more effects than he has been. And that really stood out to me in the show. I could hear it a lot more, even not just in the big jams, but in the kind of smaller jams as well. Those are my big takeaways.
I got that. I felt like, and you immediately heard this in the Mics and Cities, that like there was a desire, and the Well, I would say, there was a desire to kind of see what is going on with his effects. We really got this in, especially the latter part of the Golden Age, but the Fuego as well, the No Men's as well. It seemed like the synth pedal made a little bit more of a return, which it strikes me that like we've been having this kind of dueling back back and forth, like very clean approach during the spring, but also like a very muddy, dirty kind of jamming approach in parts of 2024. It seems as though he's found kind of a balance of where he can hit on the clean and then, dive deep into kind of the muddiness. I do wonder, because we talked about this a lot, that like Mike sounded slightly absent from the band in parts of 2021 and 2022. And then he's really reemerged in the last 2.5 years as kind of a leading instrument. And part of that seemed to be because Trey was laying off the synth pedal, which ended up making him sound like a bass guitar. I almost wonder if the move back to the center, and he's closer to Trey now, Fishman's on the other side of him, if there's more of like a mutual relationship with the synth pedal than there used to be. I don't know. That's just kind of where my head goes.
Yeah, absolutely. I could definitely feel the mics is really great. And I love when they're playing like a mic so early in the show. It's just That to me is always like a good sign, I feel like. But yeah, the mics in the cities definitely stand out. I thought it was fun to see the wow watching Trey's face when it gets dark. He was like so leaning into it. He was just like loving it, which was really fun. And interesting, I mean, playing Dirt, even though it's not a bust out, it was played at Albany last fall, so only 22 shows, but I feel like it's pretty rare to hear still, so
Yeah.
it's kind of nice. And I think it works well. And then you have that slower tempoed Weekapog again, which is it's just getting dark and funky. I like what it's doing. I like how they're playing it a little bit slower. I think it's fine. I like it. I don't have issues with it.
Strangely, I'm just looking at my stats here. I have seen a lot of Dirt. The last one I saw was the Austin show. They played it in the second set. It's only been
Oh,
played
really?
77 times. It was like
It's not that
they pushed it
often.
really hard in 1997, laid off it in 98, laid off it again in 99, 2000, kind of the same. And then ever since then, it's like maybe it was like 4 times in 2003, 3 times in 2009. Like it's really just like a once every or like 3 or 4 times a year type of thing. That is just a beautiful little ballad that I would
I
even
love
be
that
down with
song.
that working its way into like a second set landing pad. It's just such a beautiful song.
Yes, exactly. I know I haven't heard it since 2019 from Charleston, but I
Mm.
mean, I've only seen it twice in 3.0 and 4.0 or 3.0, I guess. And then all the other times were in 97.
Yeah, that would make sense. You see a lot of
Yeah.
97 shows, you'd see a lot of Dirts.
Yeah.
Um, all right, let's chat Fuego Golden Age. This is a back-to-back 20-minute jam segment. Um, you're getting slightly more music than you got on Tuesday night in Pittsburgh in a jam segment, but you get it across 2 songs. Um, just from a, you know, show chaser, from a song chaser, from a jam state chaser standpoint, wherever you fall, would you prefer to see a 40-minute long jam or 2 jams that kind of stretch that limit?
40 minutes. No
40
question.
minutes. Yeah. That's
Yeah,
kind of
there's
where I'm at.
just it's just so special. It's just, I have a list of the longest jams I've seen, and I still have not seen a 40-minute jam. So
What's
I'm
the
not
longest you've
counting
seen?
the secret sets. I think it might be the Ruby Waves from last year. I'll pull it
37
up.
minutes. Nice. Nice
Yeah, I
stuff.
think that's it. Yeah. I mean, I just think there's something about seeing a super long jam like that. Yeah, it's the Ruby Waves from last year. That was the longest I've seen. And the second longest is the Tweezer from 12/30/19. So my longest jam is 37 minutes and 50 seconds. I would like that beat this summer, Phish.
Choctaws Torture from Mexico is mine, and that's like 39:53, something
Oh, so
hilarious. Like
we
just
fuck
shy
you.
of it. And Trey
So
the
close.
next night during Choctaws Reprise said we're gonna play another 40-minute Choctaws. And I want to be like, no, you fucker, you didn't actually hit 40 minutes.
Just so you know. How about
I'm
you?
not
You'd
angry.
rather see the longer one too, right?
Until I get to the 40-minute jam, I'm always chasing that. The
Yeah.
reason I ask it though is that like there is something deeply satisfying about an awesome near 25-minute long fuego that you would think as it's winding down and fading into golden age will be the show highlight.
Yeah.
And lo and behold, they not only have more to say, but so much more to say. And they're now like primed and ready to say it that the Golden Age goes down as my favorite show of the night and my favorite show of the weekend and one of my favorite jam of the weekend and one of my favorite jams of the year overall. It's just a really wild place to be. Like in years past, I know I keep harping on this, but like I think it's just important to remind people of. In years past, the No Man in No Man's Land that opens the set might be the show highlight.
Yeah, totally. For
In
sure.
really good years past, the Fuego would be the highlight.
Yeah.
In this very unique and amazing period in Phish history, the golden age then happens after the Fuego. I don't really understand like what is happening. It strikes me age is a good thing for people, that like the older you get, if you embrace it and you age into it, it's actually a benefit because this band is more creative than they were in their 40s and 50s, which is just wild.
Yeah.
Um but I'm just blown away by it. I think like the Fuego gets to like that hypnotic, groovy dance space that like I think everyone wants to reach at a certain point in a show and is like
Yeah.
super fun to hear for 5 minutes, let alone 25 minutes. Like it's just sweet. Just keep coming at me with your like hypnotic grooves. The Golden Age is a little bit more cerebral. It's a little bit more of like a chin scratcher. It gets to kind of menacing weird spaces at the end of it. And it really just to me showcases, Phish at their best is a musical conversation, and a jam like the Golden Age is kind of like you're hanging around with friends in conversation and you get to like kind of the nasty parts of life and like challenging moments, and like you actually like cross that threshold in conversation, and this sounds like that in music. It's a very special thing.
Yeah, I like that metaphor. The Fuego, first of all, can we just take a minute and say thank you, Fuego? Like, you saved Green Day 4. You continue to ride as just a killer place for Phish right now. Like,
Longest encore ever in
I mean,
at
right?
Hollywood.
Like, anytime Fuego comes on now, I just get excited because I'm like, yes, like they just are so inspired by the song right now. It's amazing. But this is where I really heard a lot more of the effects. And I thought that this jam, Mike breaking through at like 16, 17 minutes with this bass line that would just, yeah, talk about hypnotic groove, just destroy you. And the way that Trey starts to like soar over it with this really simple but melodic line. And it's so emotional, and it just has that gorgeous sustained peak and another expert level drop back into Fuego. Maybe Trey is getting better at this. Like, there's a really great drop back into the song. So I think that that's killer. And yeah, this Golden Age is one of my favorite jams they've played on this tour so far. It's now the longest Golden Age ever. It beat out Vegas from 16 by a
Mm.
few minutes, which is exciting. This jam has incredible flow. I've listened to this, I think, twice today, and it just moves effortlessly between sections. And it has like some of what they found in the What's Going Through Your Mind. I heard some of that kind of spacey noise jam, but the way that it builds to like this really, really evocative, like kind of moody peak, you could call it that. It just has a lot of emotion in it, which I think is really beautiful. And the way they start rocking outside of the peak is really fun and energetic and so uplifting. The peak does not quit. This peak just keeps on going, and then an awesome segue back into the song again. So I think it's an incredible jam. I'm excited to keep listening to it.
We got a great comment here from Ed that there have been a lot of boring Fuegos, and now it's almost always a show highlight. It's a really good point, and it's something that I kind of remember feeling in late 3.0 that this song was almost a lost cause. Like it had debuted
Yeah. Oh,
as
yeah.
the big jam vehicle out of Wingsuit. We got huge versions at SPAC 14 and the Man 14, and then it kind of fell off. And then we would get like a cool version from the Forum, and but it seemed like it was so much time and energy to like get there. It seemed like a song that was really hard for them to jam, and now it just feels like when in doubt, play Fuego. Ghost
Totally.
Boy 98 here since 2023. It's made a good comeback. I think if memory serves correctly, it was the Berkeley version. That Berkeley run is so legendary now in hindsight. And midway
Yeah.
through that second set of I think the second night, 419, there was just an outstanding Fuego that seemed to come out of nowhere. It seemed to be a weird setlist call at the time, and then here we are, gigantic jam, and then we got the great version from MSG that year, and ever since then we've just had really outstanding versions of Fuego that make it a show highlight and a moment like this. And then Golden Age, another song I wrote an essay back in 2013 about how the band seemed to be struggling to jam out of Golden Age. It seemed to be a very contained hypnotic groove, and now we're just that idea has completely gone by the wayside because they've figured out a way to jam this. I'd really love to know if members of TV on the radio have heard some of the highlight versions of Golden Age, because it really just
No.
does justice to what that band did.
I know. How cool would that be to hear this band covering your song and playing it for almost 30 minutes? That's pretty cool.
The amount of times that they've just like absolutely taken it out in the last couple of years, and it just ends up being a show and tour highlight. Awesome stuff here. I love the version from Seattle as well. So
Mhm.
we closed tonight's show. I think the only nitpick I would have about this show is there's a very natural 4-song second set here. Squirming Coil, End
Totally.
Everything, beautiful. What a thing on paper to look at. What a thing to behold. Sand Character Zero just felt a little superfluous. It just kind of okay. Life Beyond the
He's been
Dream
doing
first
that
two.
though, playing like an hour and a half sets now. They're going longer.
That's now like it's a real thing since last summer that
Yeah.
the band will give you like a complete section and then we'll tack on two songs to end the
Yeah.
set. I don't love it from a flow standpoint. I'm not really complaining because we had such a great show in and of itself. But if there's any nit I'm going to pick with this show, it's that. Let's go then. Do you have anything else you want to say about night one of Austin, or can we move on?
No, I think we can move on. I mean, the encore is very predictable.
Extremely. And speaking of predictable, we would get relatively predictable on night 2 in Austin, 628. You want to give us the set list here?
Sure. Opens up with Punch You in the Eye into Free, followed by My Soul, 555, Reba, Hey Stranger, Plasma, Gula Papyrus, Moon Age, Daydream. Set 2 is Chalk Dust Torture, into Twist, into Ruby Waves, into Monsters, Limb by Limb, Split Open and Melt, Rock and Roll, and the encore is Waste and Say It to Me Santos.
So logic will dictate on any Phish show or any Phish tour that you will get a show like this on paper. What logic will not dictate was that this show will include a 30-minute jam off of one of the best jam vehicles. More on that later. But this to me feels like, because I don't really have anything to say about the first set. It happened. I thought the Plasma had a cool 3 minutes. I'm curious your thoughts. Like, you read through that set list. You all out in the audience may disagree, and if so, let us know. I'd be more than happy to hear your opinions on this. My take is that this is a fairly boring set list, and that this is a collection of songs that kind of just get played in the periphery of the rotation, and it just happened that they all were played during the same first set. I'm curious from your standpoint, like, what is the purpose of a first set like this? Is it literally just because we have to do it and these songs we know how to play them, so they're played? Is there a table setting manner here of let's turn over the rotation because we're off for the next 5 days? What are your thoughts when you see a set list like this?
Yeah, I think it was just kind of like some songs we haven't played in a while. You've got a classic opener and Punch You. You've got some songs like you've got a song by Mike, 555. You've got a new song, Hey Stranger. You've got a Trey song, Plasma. And then you've got some an old classic Phish song in Gula that's not played very often. Played last summer at Dick's, but before that, not since 2022. And then you've got Moon Age, which everybody loves to see because it's Bowie. And I actually think Moon Age is a fucking amazing set one closer. I think this is the perfect way to close a set. Bowie, Wild Peaks, yes. So I think it was kind of, classic opener, fantastic closer, some just stuff in the middle. I think it's just Trey trying to play some songs he hasn't played.
Ed here says that the band was just tight. Trey was way more on point than the previous night's first set. I think that's part of it. Maybe maybe the band was just let's play some songs that we know we can just deliver on. The Free had some weird tempo stuff, and then it made sense to me that they would play My Soul, because despite what I feel about that song does seem to be we need a little bit of a reset to make sure there's nothing better than 12 Bar Blues get you back on okay, we're all on the same page here. Reba was quite nice. I'm never going to complain about a Reba. Plasma I thought was interesting. This set was just it felt like and Forbin77 says the punch with a long intro needed to listen. That's definitely a good point here. 555 hinted at type 2 territory. The set just it seems to me like this is a set that we see throughout Phish history. If you go through set lists, you're going to see a first set like this that is not a ton that's special. It's more just A, we need to play a set. B, we need to kind of keep these rotational songs in, and C, maybe we need to kind of focus on getting a little bit tighter as the tour rolls along. Let's talk set 2. So again, I don't want to live in the negative waters. But what do you think made Trey abandon a relatively promising Chalk Dust Torture 11 minutes in?
I have no idea. I don't know. It sounded great. It sounded great, but Trey likes to play songs sometimes. And I don't know. I don't know if maybe he was like, I'm not ready to go deep right now. Because
Mm,
Twist kind of does the same thing too. Like it gets a little interesting and then it's like he's out of it.
he's out of it.
He's like, I just want to play my new stuff, guys. I
Mm.
love what's going through your mind. I love Ruby Waves. Like he's like, I just want to play the new stuff. I don't know. I was a little surprised too. I mean, I was happy with where it ended up because Ruby Waves jams rule. They rule, but it was it was a little bit of, it was a huge ripcord out of Chalk Dust particularly. At least Twist kind of segued into Ruby Waves, but yeah. Mm-mm.
It's definitely something that if you again you go back to like even as recent as 2016, if they abandoned this Chalk Dust Torture at this time and went for Twist, it was a sign of where the set was going. That the set was almost
Oh yeah, yeah,
irrecoverable at that point in time. There are a lot of second sets where like an 11-minute jam is what you got, and then a bunch of
yeah.
songs, and you were like, okay, I thought you guys went deep here and there. Uh, the Ruby Waves, though, this is the clear show highlight, one of the tour highlights at this point in time.
Mhm.
Um, and this brings up, an interesting point that Ed is making here. I thought they kept looking for a good direction in Chalk Dust Torture, and nothing quite hit.
Mm.
So I think I on listening, I thought the Chalk Dust Torture was more warranting of like at least 1 to 2 more minutes of trying. But I will acknowledge here with what he's saying, what they're saying that like uh it seemed like it was going to a relatively standard Chalk Dust Torture jam vehicle space, and maybe Trey was just like, nope, unless we have new ideas, like I'm abandoning it. And Ruby Waves almost immediately goes to new direction, new space, kind of similar stuff to what's going through your mind, similar stuff to Golden Age, where it's like melodic and funky and groovy, but also like industrial and weird and dystopian. And like it felt like this big mix in a way that like Ruby Waves just seems to inspire something in this band
Yeah.
that I'm 100% here for, and I'm really, really excited to continue to see them dive deep here. What were your thoughts on this jam and kind of where it says about the band at this point in time?
I love this jam. It starts off with that kind of horizontal jamming with Fishman just like urging the jam forward. They've got the kind of screeching on loops, but then it gets this soundscape that's really eerie and dramatic. It's so dramatic. And then it slowly builds to like a huge emotional peak. And then it has a little bit of like yards after catch situation with like some really kind of like evocative and like spacey stuff. And you're kind of floating. And then they return to that soundscape that they found in the beginning again. And then they segue pretty cool into monsters. I'm not a huge Monsters fan, but it was a cool segue. But the jam is awesome and really effortless.
The segue did work. I will give them that.
Yeah.
Ed also notes here that this reminded him of something Trey said about the Mercury at the Alpine Valley show in 2019. They thought that would be the big jam. They ran out of ideas, and Ruby Waves saved the day. That's a good point. Sometimes, you may come out. Chalk Dust Torture set to opening jam is like a very standard thing at this point in Phish history. Again, not complaining. It's just like when in doubt,
Yeah.
open the second set with Chalk Dust Torture. Usually you have at least 18 minutes banked away at that point in time. This Ruby Waves is just like where the ideas came from. And I don't know what it is about that song. I wonder if it's like the tempo that they play at, the fact that it's only like 2.5 minutes long. I think Trey has to feel a lot when he sings those lyrics. Those are very, very powerful lyrics. And the fact that that song was written back in 2007, 2008 range really kind of hints at like where his headspace was at. And that carrying over to here probably
Mm.
really impacts him. I don't know, but we got like one of the tour highlights, one of the year highlights, I would say, one of the top 3 or one of the top 10 jams of the year out of this Ruby Waves. I was super into it. I'm very excited to go back and re-listen to it and revisit it. The set then kind of goes into like a weird terrain. I thought the Split Up in a Melt was very cool for a little bit in time. I'm always here for rock and roll, which has somehow become a rare song in Phish history, at least at this point in time. But I felt like this show in any other tour would be the off night. And
Yeah.
here you get this 30-minute Ruby Waves that requires you to at least re-listen and dig in a little bit more on this in a way that even 7 years ago would have been hopefully you didn't travel for that show. And now, like, no, hopefully you did because you got a 30-minute jam.
That's what's crazy about where they're at right now. I can't believe there have been 6 jams over 20 minutes in these 6 shows. That's crazy. And not just like boring little jams, like big monster jams, 2 of them back to back, like one of them 40 minutes, one of them 30. Like this is big, big stuff. This is a lot of expectation. Like this band just like continues to just, I don't know. They ask for it. They ask for this expectations because they're just delivering so hard. And it's so exciting thinking about them going to Colorado where they love. Mike's already posting like pictures of Telluride 88. He's just like in the feels right now. And it's gonna be exciting. You know, they want to make it up to everybody. They're not gonna be at Dick's. They know everybody loves Dick's. So I think it's pretty exciting going into Colorado this week.
I am excited about it. I don't know what to anticipate because these shows feel slightly unique. There's nothing right before it and there's really nothing right after it. So it's like
Yeah.
these 3 shows and then they have a little bit of time off and the tour, like from a regular tour, 2 days during the week, 3 days over the weekend, doesn't really get started. I mean, we have a Wednesday show in Columbus next week. And then from there, like it's 2 weeks of like hard touring for the band. It feels slightly different. This tour just like it feels like it's very different from like tours of the past where we won't really feel like we're in that like constant cycle of Phish tour until post Boulder. Um, it's gonna be a big stadium. I don't know. It's still not sold out. This is
It's
like
not.
twice as big as Dick's. And I have a lot of friends who come to Dick's every year that are not coming to this because it's conflicting with family vacations that they, have already booked in Labor Day as like, sorry, I'll see you later. So I think it's going to be a different vibe. I think the band is going to feel very cool being back in Boulder for the first time since I believe 1993, the first time that they're
Oh my
playing
God.
there.
That's
Um,
crazy.
the band has played solo shows. Members have played solo shows in Boulder and the Boulder Theater and in the Fox, but it's definitely you know, a step back in time for them. They used to play Boulder all the time and play up and down the Front Range all the time in the early 90s. I think that there's going to be something very special in the air for it, plus the way the band is playing right now. It's pretty amazing. I feel very lucky with where we're at right now. And like you said, 6 20-minute jams at this point in time, or 20-minute jams going into, the 7th and 8th and 9th shows of the tour. We're just in a really lucky space. Um, Last question for you. What would be your big highlight of these last 3 shows, Pittsburgh and the 2 Austins?
Oh, it's definitely what's going through your mind. Come
Yeah,
on,
that's where
40.
I'm at.
Come on, right? Huge jam. I hope they do another one on this tour.
I do too, and I hope it happens this week.
No, I hope it happens later.
Fine, let's have 2 more.
Let's have 2 more. We can have 2 more. You can do one at SPAC maybe, and one in New York. How about New York City? How about a 45-minute jam in New York City? Come on, that'd be so crazy. Come
Do you
on.
think that would upset the neighbors if they were like, they're still playing the same song?
I can't wait. I hope so.
Can't either. So we will be back next Monday to break
Yeah.
down the Boulder shows. Come and check us out over on Blockbuster Card on Wednesday morning. New
Mhm.
time, new time, same place, new time. We'll be talking about Brief Encounter, which is a unbelievable, fascinating movie over on our new Blockbuster Card series. Until then, I hope you guys dig into the jams. I hope you guys have an amazing week, and I will see whoever I see at Boulder on Thursday. Cannot wait.
Brian, have the best time at the shows. You too,
I'll have
everybody else who's going.
I'll have a time.
Have a less anxious, enjoyable time at the
Can't wait.
shows.
Can't wait. We'll see you guys.
Thanks, everyone.